Mr. Iωάνου, first I would like to give us an overview of how the year ends for the American P&I Club and the English Ocean Marine. How did the renewal go?
Okay, well, I mean, the renewal dating back to February of 2023. Yeah, so if you look at the way that we were in 2017, let's go back a little bit further and compare to where we are today in 2023. In terms of tonnage, we are up by over 40%, and in terms of premium, we're up by almost 50%. So that's a very good trajectory. Our combined loss ratio continues to come down year on year. We have been going through some difficult times over the recent period, basically riddled with disruption, post-period of pandemic, also post-period of reduced rates. But the club has taken many, many actions to deal with this, many measures in terms of not renewing poor performers, changing the risk profile, modifying the underwriting profile and the model, and we're seeing that reap the rewards. And one of the slides that we showed today showed that while the combined loss ratio continues to drop, the premium and the tonnage continues to rise. So I believe what I can say for the American Club is that we are on the right side of a turnaround.
Also, how do P&I clubs identify the upcoming environmental regulations for shipping that will come into force 2024?
Well, I don't think that we can separate these particular regulations from any previous regulations that have come out in terms of decarbonization, climate risk, or general safety at sea. So the clubs themselves have a warranty of compliance with all regulations. Within that context, though, because we are the largest reinsurance mechanism in the world in shipping, we provide a safety net for first movers in all of these transitions. If it weren't for the P&I clubs, I don't think that any transition can be possible because we're there. When change happens, you change risk. When you change risk, that means you're definitely going to have new types of accidents, new types of events, and the clubs are there to help the members get through the change, but they're there in the event of the pure accident. So the way I see it, the American Club and all the clubs of the IG, we support and facilitate every single transition when it comes to the regulatory environment.
So, Mr. Tandros, to what extent have geopolitical situation affected P&I clubs, such as war in Ukraine and the Middle East?
So the geopolitical situation, not just the wars, has affected all the shipping industry and especially the P&I clubs and owners because now everyone has to have had enhanced due diligence. What does that mean? That means that every owner, every charter, every player in the industry has to have its own team to conduct due diligence, to look into all the sanctions regulations, to understand them, to know what is permitted and what isn't. So what has that done? It's increased costs for companies and P&I clubs, and it's also increased costs for the ship owners to do this due diligence. The wars in particular have created even more dangerous situations, as I'm sure you've read about the Houthis and everyone attacking certain vessels, which means that owners and P&I clubs and other insurers have to take extra precautions in these areas. So it has been a major disruption for shipping.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Maris. I must say to begin with, it's an absolute pleasure to be back in Piraeus to be part of this presentation. In a slightly different manner now, of course, by comparison with my own involvement making the presentations over in past years. Dorothea's presentation was characteristically excellent. I think she provided some really interesting historical and more recent context for the circumstances in which the club finds itself at present. I thought that there was a very clear explanation of what's been happening within the experience of the club in recent years. It has created some difficulty in regard to the unforecast supplementary calls over the recent past, but I think that where we are now is exponentially better than where we were a few years ago, and I'm absolutely convinced that we will be going forward in a much better position now that we've had to take these difficult decisions, but also in terms of our underwriting practices and procedures for the future, and I have every confidence, particularly in the context of the new team that we have on the day-to-day basis running the club and Eagle Ocean Marine, that we will go from strength to strength over the years ahead.
Thank you, Marcos. I think it's important to realize that the American club has gone to great lengths and has spent a lot of time not only shoring up its services and its excellent claims handling, but also its finances. Mrs. Ioannou very correctly gave us the historical background of how and where the American club came from and why we as a club, compared to other clubs, have been at a disadvantage for many years. However, as you saw from the statistics and the graphs that were shown, the tonnage is increasing about 40 to 50% over the past 5-6 years, and so is premium. At the same time, the combined loss ratio is going down, which is what we want. Additionally, you must realize that the investment income part of the earning side of the club is a very important factor. We, the American Club, being registered and domiciled in New York State, are subject to strict rules in terms of where we can invest, which means what? That we have a regulatory requirement to be extremely conservative. I believe about 60% of our investment has to be in US-based fixed income, meaning treasuries and munis. Very safe, but not necessarily very well-paying. So we only have about 40% left to actually have a discretionary investment strategy. But we are very conservative with that as well. That has paid off over the long term, but it also means that our investment income does not contribute that much. We have taken the decision as a board to impose significant supplementary calls, but we have also, looking forward, decreased release calls for next year. So I think that shows how we see our finances, which will be, or already are, in better shape than what they were, and we believe over the next 3 to 5 years will be in much better shape. And with the support of the membership, which, as you saw over here, is always very enthusiastic and very much committed to this club.
According to your opinion, generally, about the competition between P&I clubs?
I understand why you say that, but what I would say is that the American P&I Club has always been committed to the medium to small family, privately run company in Greece, which is the backbone of Greek shipping. That does not mean that we don't want large companies and that we don't have large companies that may have part of their fleets with a club, whether private or public. But we are committed as a club to serving the needs of the medium and smaller Greek ship owner. And the same holds true with our ship owners in Latin America, in the Far East, where again we are addressing and serving the privately held family companies. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't think it's a matter of competition. We have better service, we're nicer people, we're a clever club, we're ahead of others in many ways of thinking and strategy, and that means that we can easily compete with the larger ones.
Well, indeed. I mean, the American Club has a very long and storied history. Of course, we are celebrating next year our 107th anniversary. We were founded in 1917, and for most of the period until the mid-1990s, we were very much a domestic club that catered to the American flag tonnage, and as that declined over time, it became very necessary for the club to develop an international presence and become more outgoing in its view of the maritime community in general. And that started way back when I joined the club in 1995, which is more than 28 years ago, as you will have calculated. And at that time it was called the Vision 2000 Initiative. And we've been very successful, I think, as a team in building on those initial movement forward that we had at the time in building an international organization and a club and in its various forms of service provision that is now truly internationally based, has a very important role here, we believe, in the Greek community, which has always been incredibly important to us ever since we began, really, our internationalization over the years. And it's a very different world in which we live now, but I think that the basis upon which the American Club was founded, its commitment to its membership, its principle of mutuality, which has always governed the manner in which it's operated, I think they stand us in very good stead for the future, and we have every expectation that we will continue to go from strength to strength in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Kanzios. Indeed, our office continues to grow. We're very, very proud of this. The region that we serve is very, very important, and that is self-evident in the size of our office, because exactly we are here to serve our membership. And although we started off as a claims-oriented office, we have enriched our operations. We have colleagues now in the accounting department, and in total right now we are 18. So in order to understand the proportions, out of the 18, 10 are claims handlers. We are qualified amongst us in 3 jurisdictions, New York, England and Wales, and Greece, of course. We have very, very talented handlers. Then we expanded our operations in business development, also for servicing in view of the time zone, for timely servicing of issuance of documentation and so forth. Accounts, as I mentioned, we are soon to welcome 2 more colleagues in the accounts department. We will be 20 shortly in total. And our compliance department, of course, because this is obviously a new area, as we all know, that is very, very, very sensitive and very time sensitive. And we really value that. We appreciate it, and we always try to service our members in this respect in the time zone that they are operating. So this is from us, another year. We're very, very happy to see all our members together, our brokers, our service providers. We work very closely with everyone. We actually have personal relationships with our members, with our brokers and the service providers. We know everybody. This is not just a typical gathering. We actually know each other. We've worked with each other. We value each other. And this is the most important thing, our service.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.